welcome to those that are here to Baseball Beyond Borders webinar series. These webinar series are a way to stay connected with community while highlighting life beyond the foul lines. I am going to announce who is with us, and it is Mariners broadcaster and a dear advocate of Baseball Beyond Borders, Dave Sims. Welcome, Mr. Sims. This conversation will be facilitated by our very own D'Amico Parker Jr., or better known as DJ. So should you have questions for Mr. Sims, we ask that you use the chat feature and we will work to accommodate all questions in the time available. So with that, DJ, go ahead and take it away.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mr. Sims. My name is DJ, as I said. It's an honor to speak with you today, and I will have a few questions for you.
All right, sounds good. Let me just explain one thing real quick. You might be hearing a lot of ambient noise. It's 7 o'clock here in New York, and we celebrate and salute first responders, police, firemen, medical workers, delivery people. 7 o'clock Eastern time. I'm sure it goes on in a lot of other cities. It gets pretty loud here in New York. So if you hear Frank Sinatra's New York, New York coming up in the next few minute or so, and the boy from New York City, a song from way back in the day, that's where all the background noise is. Just want
Okay.
to
That's awesome. They deserve it. The first question is, we'd like our audience to know you, get to know you better. Can you give us a brief background on who Dave Sims is?
Yes, Frank is teed up right now. Yeah, born and raised in Philly. I've been in sports media for a very long time. I was an athlete all through high school and college, through second year college. I knew I wanted to be in sports media, and I've had a pretty varied career as a sports writer, columnist, a TV producer, anchor, a reporter, sports talk show host, and play-by-play announcer. So I've worked hard. I've been blessed. I thank God every day, and I love what I do. When we play baseball again, it'll be my 14th season with the Mariners.
Nice. The second question is, how did you get into broadcasting?
I was a mass communications major at Little Bethany College in West Virginia, and the target was to be into broadcasting, and I took an off-ramp and was in newspapers, two summer internships, and at 7 years at the New York Daily News was which became sort of like a postgraduate type of situation. I learned so much. Well, I tell you what, I got my butt kicked a few times, got thrown in the deep end. You got to swim out, then learn how to fend for yourself. And then broadcasting in the cable TV industry just exploded with Ted Turner's CNN. I went with a rival organization called Satellite News Channel. I got my start in the TV, and then that led to sports talk radio. And people see you, people hear you. Opportunity arose. I jumped on Temple University football, and that launched me back in 1990 in my play-by-play career, doing Temple University football.
Thank you. The next question is regarding one of my idols that I've only known through movies, Jackie Robinson. Can you talk about the significance about Jackie Robinson the impact off the field?
Absolutely. I mean, we talk for hours about Jackie Robinson and the influence. I always say one of the most important and consequential Americans of the 20th century, and that's not even talking about what he did on the baseball field and what he did in college at UCLA. I mean, he opened doors, and he was a precursor to Dr. Martin Luther King and the whole desegregation and civil rights movement that got really rolling mid-50s into 1964 when the Civil Rights Bill was signed. And if not for him, I know I wouldn't be in my position right now as the only non-former Major League Baseball player who's black, who's doing play-by-play on TV in Major League Baseball. I wouldn't be here without him. And he, after his playing career was over, he worked hard in business to desegregate a lot of things, even here in New York, in the North, and created his own construction company, got to work for Chock-full of Nuts, the coffee company, and he was all about the equal opportunity for all people.
Can you also tell us your greatest Jackie Robinson memory?
Well, my greatest memory is I didn't get to see him play. However, I do have a great memory in that right before I was born, the Dodgers were his rookie year in 1947, went to the World Series. They were there 49, they were 52, 53, 55, and 56. those first couple of World Series, I probably was about 7 or 8 years old, and I discovered a cachet of old, things in a box that you'll find that your parents will put away. And there were World Series programs in there from 47 and 49. And I thought it was the coolest thing because it was Jackie Robinson, the Jackie Robinson Dodgers. And during that time, because of Jackie integrating baseball and being the first, and Larry Doby being the second with the Cleveland Indians, the Brooklyn Dodgers basically became Black America's team. And so that was like I found gold. I mean, you're looking at Newcomb and Campanella and Junior Gilliam and Jackie Robinson. I mean, it was and to hear my father, we go to the barbershop, to hear my father and the fellas talking about the old days, driving up or taking a train from Philly to New York to watch the World Series. It's just great memories. That's the best memory I have. And then the other one too is that when my father would throw BP, all my boys would get stuff served right down the middle, and he'd throw 5 or 10 at my head. Hey, stand in there like Jackie Robinson stood in there. Grind it out, it. Can't be afraid in there. And that was a lesson. That's probably the biggest lesson I learned. I mean, even my old man going, the long way around the block to teach a lesson. Right? Trying to put a couple in my ear.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing with us. And the last question is, what are your keys to success that you can share with those joining us?
Well, the main thing is to never give up, to persevere. When you get knocked down, get up and keep trying, learn from your mistakes. That's probably the biggest thing. Talk to people who are experienced, talk to people who have a lot of wisdom on their resume from their life experiences. You can glean so much by asking questions and being just intellectually curious and hungry. I mean, I think those are the basic things, and work hard. Be the first one there and the last one to leave, and don't show up late. Dress properly, speak properly, know how to handle yourself in tough situations. Those are some basic tenets that I go by.
Thank you.
So Dave, this is Buki again.
Hey, Book.
And I want to make sure that those that have joined us, make sure that you also have the ability to ask some questions. Dave Sims is here to do a Q&A with you. But another question that I'm going to ask Dave is, last year you hosted a panel that had 10 African Americans with the Seattle Mariners. This is, I think, the first since, in my knowledge, 1971, when the Pittsburgh Pirates had, I think, all their starting 9 were either Black or Latino, and majority of them were Black. So talk about.
That was a great day in Pittsburgh, boy, back in 1971, September. Yes, sir.
So talk about the significance of that 10 African American players on a roster in one given moment.
Well, the first thing that jumps in my mind, last year, the Los Angeles Dodgers did not have an African American on their ball club. Mariners, with the September call-ups last year, we had 10. And I don't even have to Google that to know that's more than anybody. And on our current 40-man roster as it stands right now, we have 10 guys. So a couple guys that moved on, a couple of guys that have been replaced by guys. And I think that's largely happenstance. I don't think that was something that was, we got to have X amount of Black guys. It was just that their talents were such that, and they happen to be Black, and we happen to have them all together at the same time, which is highly unusual, and unusual in a good way. And it's really gratifying, and hopefully it's the beginning of a surge to get more Black interest in baseball, not only on the field, but in the stands. I can't begin to tell you how many times we're on either our place at T-Mobile or on the road, and the majority of Black folks I see at Major League Baseball games are either cleaning up the ballpark before the game and getting it ready during the setup, or cleaning up afterwards. You don't see that many guys on the field. There's only 7 out of 700, 650, let's call it 700 players in the major leagues. There's only 7% who are African American. And hey, God bless all our Latin brothers and everything, people of color, absolutely. But to have, that's pretty significant to have that many African Americans in a game right now. That on one team, that 10 guys on one team. Makes my heart glad, I'll tell you that. I had so much fun during that forum last September 13th at T-Mobile, and it was one of the best days I've ever had in baseball.
Wonderful. So I want to actually ask DJ, what was his favorite Jackie Robinson moment, if you have one? DJ, what's the one thing that would be your moment of Jackie Robinson? If it ain't Jackie Robinson, it may be Ken Griffey Jr.
Well, Jack, for my favorite moment or my greatest memory, and this is from the movie 42. They showed that he stole home, and I thought that was awesome because like I thought that was just like in the moment when he stole home, I thought he was like the best player out of anybody of the whole world. I thought he was like kind of like the greatest of all time, like beyond that, but beyond the Hall of Fame wall and beyond everything else, I thought he was just filthy.
You know, he stole home 19 times, including that one time in the World Series. I think it was 55 or 56 World Series. Ty Cobb leads all time. It's like 50 times he stole home, but 19 times out of his 197 career stolen bases, he stole home. And there was also another number that jumped out at me. And you might remember, DJ, from the movie, it was the Philadelphia Phillies, Philadelphia, my hometown where I was born. That was the team that gave him the most abuse. And I looked up some numbers. While he had good numbers against the Phillies in Brooklyn, hit about 256. His best numbers were played under duress in Philly. He hit 311 and went 19 for 24 in base stealing over the course of his 10-year career playing in Philly. And a lot of those numbers, those big numbers happened in those first 3-4 years where he was not allowed to fight back, which is a pretty significant part of the story.
That's awesome.
So Dave, we got a couple questions here.
Sure.
One asks, how did you personally overcome adversity coming up in your career?
Been very lucky. Didn't have to go through any gross segregation type of situation like a lot of people have. My grandparents on both sides got out of the South right during World War I. I grew up in Philly. My father was a child of the Depression and World War II, and just a great man, hard worker, an accomplished man who started out in the U.S. Postal Service and worked his way up to a white-collar job as a main supervisor, and he was head man in charge on his tour and one of the top-ranking guys in Philly post office here. My mother was a teacher and librarian, so I was fortunate to have both parents, and they instilled all the good things in the Judeo-Christian American life, if you will. And I was pretty much shielded from that stuff. I was very lucky. And in terms of the harsh stuff, I mean, I didn't get, I wasn't in a situation where I had dogs being unleashed on me, hoses being turned on me, or anything like that. But it was a more subtle kind of racism, stuff that you go through, that I went through. But it wasn't a big mountain. But the big thing was, again, as I talked about before, is about perseverance. I mean, I count my blessings all the time, and I was given a break, and I made the most of it.
Good. Another question comes out of all the players coming up or already on the Mariners roster, who do you think will play a big part of bringing good ball back to Seattle?
All of them, I hope. I'm not going to say, Julio Rodriguez, Jared Kelman gotten a lot of attention coming into spring training. But, we have such a young team. We went from one of the oldest teams to one of the youngest teams. So right now I'm rooting for everybody. I mean, and this is a team of opportunity. I think our average age, had to been around 28, 29, maybe even 30. And now it's probably down around 23, 24. And I think on a 40-man roster, we have something like 3, maybe 4 guys over 30. And I think Seager and Gordon are the 2 most accomplished guys in that department that have played significant number of games over the course of their career.
Good. One more question. This is a very good one. I'm glad you asked this, Miles. Who do you think is the best Black baseball player of all time?
Well, I wish I'd seen Satchel and Josh Gibson. and that whole crew back in the day, for my money, who I saw on a pretty regular basis, I'm a Willie Mays guy. I saw him wreck the Phillies many a time in Philly, a 1-0 game. Walk, steal second, sacrifice the third, score in an infield hit, 1-0 final. That kind of game. And, seeing him hit on TV, home runs, and make unbelievable catches. And I used to love watching the All-Star game back in the figure from about 65 to about 80, but I can remember my American Legion years when I was playing. Willie Mays would lead off of the National League. That's how bad he was. He would lead off of the National League. And you can look at, I'll never forget, on YouTube, you can look it up. I think it was the 68 All-Star game or 69 in Anaheim. And Joe Torre, I think, was one of two white guys who started for the National League, because you had Mays, Aaron Clemente, Robinson. I mean, it was just unbelievable. So for me, I'm a Willie Mays guy.
Thank you. Here's a good question. Do you see any differences or similarities between the game now versus in Jackie's era, or let's just say the Negro League era of baseball?
Absolutely. I mean, now it's all about swing for the fences, power game, launch angle, that whole thing. The Negro League game, a lot less reliant on the power game, manufacture runs, bunt them over, hit behind the runner, hit and run, steal, run like crazy, put pressure on the defense, put the ball in play. It's not swinging from your heels and trying to hit the ball, 2 area codes away. Put the ball in play and put pressure on those guys with the speed, make them make the play. And, there's been a lot of lip service lately about, wanting to get back to that. It hasn't gotten to that point yet, because it's all about the metrics. It's all about, and there's a lot of good things in that. Don't get me wrong. But that part of the game, so many times, you'll have a couple of guys with speed. Well, we can't run them because the catcher's time is really good, and this pitcher holds on. The daring do from back in the day, it's not there. And probably the most recent team that did that had to been the '85 Cardinals, Whitey Herzog and those guys, when they ran like crazy. And I think Jack Clark was their home run guy. He had 22 home runs, and they put a premium on running, and it was successful. And they won a National League pennant in '85.
Good point. And one is the question when you think of, I believe it was Malik. Did Malik's lead the league in steals last year?
He led the major leagues with 46. And I think D 3 times when he was in the National League was stolen base champion. Harold was on our Mariner round table, and he led the league, the American League, with 60 one time. And a great story he always tells. He said Ricky Henderson called him. He said, "You led the league with 60 stolen bases." He said, "Ricky had 60 at the break." Click.
Yeah, I can imagine. Another question, Dave. What would you say is the importance of setting goals and having a daily routine to achieve them?
Well, baseball is a rhythm and routine game, and if we were playing baseball today, would have been a day off. We'd be in Oakland and San Francisco right now, ready to play Oakland for a weekend series, and a lot to be said about having a routine. Plan things out. It's a good way. Keep some order. Leave yourself some free time, but the work that has to get done, get it done, and then you can do what you want to do. The stuff that you have to do, nail it, and get it done, and get it done right, and get it done once. And I think that's a good way to approach things. I learned a lot of that. I carried a lot of that. My wife put that in play. I remember I used to hear her tell our 2 sons that all the time, and I said, "Man, that's what I've been doing," and I've even sharpened that whole approach since hearing her present that to the kids.
Yeah. Another question. We got a few more times to ask questions, a few more minutes. If Major League Baseball actually played an entire or reduced season in Arizona, would it help the Mariners, since they usually have to travel longer distances than other teams?
That's a legit question, but at this rate, if we play, I don't know, if we play 60, 80 games, if we play any games, Arizona, if they would do the Arizona, Florida approach, got to remember there's one dome stadium, the Chase Field with the retractable roof in Phoenix. Everything else will be outside, and Phoenix temperatures, June, July, August are triple digits for the most part. So you can forget day games, and it'll be very hot at night playing at a 7 o'clock game. So, and not knowing how the team is composed right now, or anybody for that matter, and there's no way I'm going out and trying to make a prediction, because right now we're dealing with the great unknown.
Good point. Good point. Now, Dave, you mentioned DJ, you mentioned Jackie's favorite moment for yourself. Dave, did you get a chance to explain your favorite Jackie Robinson moment?
There was I saw video. I did sort of answer that, but I did see a piece of film, the documentary shot, heard around the world about the Giants, the Bobby Thompson home run that beat the Dodgers in the famous 1951 National League playoff series. But to get to that series, the Dodgers had cratered coming down the stretch. Jackie hit a home run in Philly on the last day of the season to ensure the tie that forced the playoff. And, it was pretty interesting, especially since it happened in Philly. And I thought that was a pretty cool moment. There's not, back in those days, they didn't shoot sports the way we shoot it now, with all angles and all kinds of close-ups and everything. But it was what does exist is really, really cool to watch.
Good point. I think many memories that we have of Jackie is the infamous stealing home.
Yeah.
It brings great risk, but it has such great reward.
No question.
And that was the epitome of the life in which he lived, right? He brought great risk, but yet he saw the reward. So he had this unique foresight to see the talent. And I think we heard this on the roundtable. There was foresight that Jackie had from the ability to see the talent in the Negro Leagues and open up a door to allow those like the Roy Campanellas and others to experience baseball at another level.
Yeah, the other thing I know from reading a lot of books about Jackie Robinson, that whole time, that time period, Branch Rickey, yeah, a lot of it was done out of the goodness of his heart, but he's also a businessman. And he also knew that winning baseball was going to bring people into the ballpark, and that's what happened.
Well, DJ, I'm going to turn it back over to you. We have lightning round to close us out. So, DJ, go ahead.
Okay. So, for the first question, favorite music artist?
Well, I'm a lot older than you and older than probably everybody we have up on the panel, but I go way back. I'm influenced by 1950s rock and roll. I got to go with, you can put a lot of names on him, but Chuck Berry, man. Chuck Berry, to me, is just an absolute giant. And anybody, I don't play guitar, but I'm a big rock and roll fan. And there was a special they did, I guess, I don't know, it's many moons ago, but like a who's who of guitar players showed up. It might've been when he went in the Hall of Fame. Who's who of guitar players showed up to honor Chuck Berry because he is the foundation of rock and roll. Nice.
Favorite movie?
I saw it in 1972 on a spring baseball trip. The Godfather, being an urban guy, being a silly guy, a city guy, and I've been in a mixed environment pretty much all my life. The storytelling of The Godfather, the drama of it, and a lot of it was, actual stories. Some of the names were changed to protect the innocent. It's a compelling story, and I'd have to easily call it my favorite movie. And I could be here for an hour naming some others, but I'm gonna go with that one.
Favorite quote?
From Godfather 2, the great Lee Strasberg, the great acting coach, playing Hiram Roth, was a mobster, a Jewish mobster, and he was doing work with Michael Corleone. Michael, this is the business we've chosen. If you've seen that movie, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you haven't seen the movie, go check it out.
My dad has. He's seen the movie.
Yeah, and I'll bet he's seen it about 10 times like I have too.
Yes.
Annual sit down and watch The Godfather. Yes, indeed.
Greatest baseball player of all time?
It's got to be Babe Ruth, because elite, super elite pitcher, super elite hitter who changed the game. Like I said, I'm a Willie Mays guy. I saw him with my own eyes, but looked at, and granted, Babe Ruth didn't play against all the black fellas. But you listen to John Jordan, Buck O'Neill talk about on Ken Burns' baseball about Ruth. I mean, a dude, he changed the game. He really did. And you look at his pitching numbers, they're ridiculous, as dominant as his hitting numbers were. So because he could do, he did both, and his first two chapters of his career, he's got to be the guy. I mean, he finished with a 342 batting average. I think he's 1,000 plus OPS. 714 home runs. I mean, it's just his numbers. When you look at the Baseball Reference, so many of his numbers are black, which means he led the major leagues. And he stole home 10 times. I couldn't believe that when I saw that one day.
Favorite food?
I've changed my diet dramatically, but it used to be Philly cheesesteaks and hoagies. But I'll just go with pretty much straight Italian food.
Nice. Favorite baseball moment?
Oh, easy. Felix Hernandez perfect game, calling that. Was it August 15th of 2012? To that point, I'd called the Philip Umber perfect game against the Mariners in April 21 of the same year. Prior to that, in 06, I'd called the NCAA basketball tournament East Region Final. Heavy underdog George Mason upset the number 1 seed, Connecticut. That game I was on national radio with the late, great Dave Gavitt. That was the biggest, most exciting play-by-play broadcast moment I'd ever had. And then Felix had the perfecto. That was special because he was our guy. He was at the peak of his powers. It was at Safeco Field on a spectacular day. And it was what? It was the 22nd, I think 21st or 22nd perfect game in the history of Major League Baseball. And I was fortunate enough to call 2 of them in one season.
Wow, that's really cool. Last one, 2020 walk-up song.
I'm gonna go, well, for you it'll be old school. I'm gonna go back to my youth again, Motown sound, and there's dozens. There was an unheralded, it might even been a B-side, but Four Tops did a song called Something About You. Wait a minute. Yeah, I think it was Something About You. And it's a very good song. The rhythm track's outstanding. The singing's outstanding. It's a mid-tempo, almost an upbeat tempo. It's really good. And if that's not number 1, I would have to take Junior Walker and the All-Stars, and I'd have to go with Roadrunner.
Thank you.
Old school for you old timers out there. For you youngins, look it up.
Dave, I'm sure you gave DJ some homework to go and look up those songs. We'll make sure.
Hey, man, you got to learn about your people. You know what I'm saying?
That's right. That was good. Dave, we do appreciate you joining us today on a day in which we celebrate the legacy of Jackie Robinson. Of course, for us, we celebrate Jackie every day.
You're here. Same here with this, man. I wear this, as you know, more often than not to the ball game, to the ballpark. So I appreciate it. It's good spending some time with you, and good luck and God bless, and everybody stay safe out there.
Thank you. So again, appreciate everybody in attendance that was able to join us for this Q&A session with Mariners broadcaster Dave Sims. We ask that you stay connected with us through Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter at BBB Inner City.